The government's superannuation reforms are set for a showdown in the Senate, with the crossbench pushing for changes. The so-called Your Super, Your Future proposal would see workers keep the same superannuation fund when they move from job to job. Centre Alliance Senator Rex Patrick is pushing to ensure workers are not necessarily tied to underperforming super funds. The government was previously forced to ditch another plank of their super plan after coalition MPs pushed back. And Rex Patrick joins me now here in the studio. Thanks for your time. So let's run through some of your proposed amendments and concerns. Workers being stapled to one super fund. The good part of it clearly is a lot of people have had multiple funds pop up, and as much as you warn people, they end up paying multiple fees. So you like that part, but you see a problem around insurance in particular?
Yeah, look, the government's been doing a pretty good job over the last year or two trying to rationalise the super industry so that people don't end up paying twice or for superannuation or having 3 or 4 insurance policies in place. This is sort of the latest tranche in those changes, and I do support the idea that you staple to a fund that there's not lots and lots of changes, but there are some tidy-ups that are required. I don't want to see people who enter the workforce in the retail sector then go to an area like mining or perhaps firefighting, some high-risk occupation, and find themselves stapled to a retail fund that doesn't have the right insurances for them.
Right, so that could work simply by you go from retail and then you have certain occupations listed as more dangerous. You're still very unlikely to die or get injured, but there's more of a chance as a firefighter. And what would happen then? Then they could say, you know, you should check your insurance and you should check your fund. Is that how that would work?
Basically at that point, instead of being stapled, you might then be moved across to a more suitable fund. Of course,
or offered at least. You can stick with your fund if you want.
Always people have a choice under this arrangement, right. So that's good. The other thing that I've done in this space is made sure you can't get stapled to a poor performing fund as well. You don't want to enter the workforce with a fund and then find 5 years later it's a poor performing fund, but actually you've been stapled.
Wouldn't the government's performance review that's sort of inbuilt now take care of that anyway? Again, if someone wants to stay, that's fine, but if they get a letter saying, or a notice saying your fund is poorly performing, isn't that the trigger we need still with the choice?
Again, that's what the government is trying to do, and I'm supporting the monitoring of performance and making it easier for people to understand how their super funds are performing. I just don't want to see people stapled to a fund, because what happens is a lot of people enter the workforce and they never give super another thought.
But stapling, I mean, there's the sort of set and forget versus stapling. No one's stuck with a fund under the government's reform, right? It's just whether they bother changing it.
Yeah, it really comes down to what happens automatically versus the conscious choice to make changes. Okay. There are some people that do focus on this, other people, the majority of people, simply never really look at their super funds.
What about the regulation-making power? This has been changed. Labor claims there's a sort of backdoor power still, though, that super funds would be able to be forced to sort of cancel decisions on investments and so on. Where do you sit on this? Is that true?
Look, that's my view as well. There is a backdoor that could allow a minister to make a direction. My fundamental position is this is workers' money, and if a worker wants to sign up to a fund that has ethical investment, has training programs in place, all of those sorts of things, then so be it. It's not for the government to tell people how their money should be invested.
Right.
That's an interference.
So, because you've got advisors on legislation, they're telling you this best financial interest clause could actually be used by the Treasurer of the day, however they wanted, and just say, no, you can't make that decision, you can't cancel coal investment, whatever it be.
Yeah, if a power exists, it is open to being misused. And we saw that recently when the government misused a power in relation to Australians returning from India.
Okay, so these are your deal breakers. Where's it at right now? You think you've got enough support from the crossbench?
I've actually been working with Labor, the Greens and the crossbench over the last month or so with these amendments. They're not surprises, and hopefully we've reached a landing point where everyone agrees them.
And when you say everyone, the government obviously wants its original bill. Does it find your changes satisfactory, not going too far?
Actually, unusually, the government haven't been engaging with me on this.
They haven't?
They haven't been engaging, and that is something that's playing in the back of my mind.
This is going to going to Parliament tomorrow, isn't it?
It is, but it might be simply that the government accepts what I'm doing. So, for example...
It'd be nice for them to tell you that if that were the case.
Well, in the case of the high-risk occupations, we did something similar to previous legislation, and actually the government were supportive and moved the change.
Right, so that shouldn't be an issue. Regulation power, though, might be a question mark.
Yes, it might be,
All
but
right.
in the end, if the government wants to pursue that, they're probably not willing to reach an agreement, and it will come down to the numbers in the Senate.
So you think they'll just sort of have the argument out and then agree? But what's your sense that this will pass with your amendments?
I'm confident my amendments will get up. You can never be 100% sure.
Okay.
But in the end, this legislation passing through will make the situation better.
Billawheeler family, community detention, it feels like a bit of a kicking of the can down the road. What are your views on what we've heard today?
Well, my starting point is that this family should never have been sent to Christmas Island. They were sent there for political reasons, and it's now politics that are playing out. The idea that they remain in Perth seems to me just the Prime Minister not properly sensing the public mood here. He hasn't got his own party on board in relation to this family. He's going to have great difficulty. This family should simply go back to Queensland. They were working there. Two beautiful daughters born in Queensland. That's where they should be.
Are you getting told anything, along the lines of, we'll do it, we're just going to do it quietly, you don't need to campaign for it?
Well, the language I saw coming out of the Prime Minister suggesting that under no circumstances will people who have arrived by boat be settled in Australia seems to me to indicate that...
But we've heard that before out loud, and then what happens?
Well, again, I'm just going by the Prime Minister's language. I think there's a sore here that's festering, and he's actually making the situation worse.